If you like our content, we'd appreciate if you'd like, subscribe, and get notifications. Help us extend our reach by sharing our video content. And if you want to help us beat the algorithm, also leave us a comment on some of our videos.
Oh yeah, it's Taco Tuesday.
Oh yeah.
Hey everyone.
What's going on?
You guys hear me okay this time?
Yep. We can hear you okay.
All right. Cool.
Yep.
Okay. So,
What's going
how was
on,
everyone's weekend?
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. All right. So I figured out how to toggle on the names again, so that way everybody's name appears underneath the in their profile picture, camera window, whatever you want to call it. So I fixed that. So I am not going to introduce myself. I'm going to let the other two admins and our two guests introduce themselves. And I'm presuming eventually Asia and Elo and Jen and V and Matt will probably log into StreamYard here in a minute.
All right. Well, since everyone's so quiet, I'll go ahead and do it.
I figured we'd do by seniority, so you know.
Oh, is that how we're going to do it?
Apparently, I don't
So, all right. Well, I'll tell you what. Drill Sergeant Admin Doug. Most of you, if you're on SOL or part of SOL in any way at all, you know who I am. And this weekend, I was not at the protests, any of them. I also was not watching the Orange Man celebrate himself with squeaky tanks and disgrace our entire country and our military by having a crowd so small that they could hear the squeaks. That's what most people don't understand is tanks don't have great suspension. I mean, at least they don't have VW suspension. They're not made to go in parades. But you normally won't hear that because there's a sycophantic group of millions that would be put to death if they didn't show up to cheer their leader. And that's one thing Trump doesn't have. And so, yeah, that's how that looked. I wasn't there for that either. But I'm happy to be here. Happy to start the conversation out just right. Happy to hear what we got, who we got on today. Who's next?
All right. I'll go next. For those of you who don't know, I'm James. I'm also one of the Sons of Liberty admins. My weekend was it was fine. I also was not at the protests because I was tied up with getting on top of a lot of things in my personal life, which was not very fun. But I was making sure I kept my eyes on everything that was going on, tracking everything I could, so that way, even if I couldn't be out there, I was at least supporting the folks who were.
So who's next?
And then
I'll jump in. Ken Harbaugh, Valor Media. My I don't know how many times I've been on with you guys, but I always look forward to it. I was covering the protests remotely and just so moved by what I saw, especially the split screen with the Trump birthday parade. That squeaky tank, I think, is going to go down in history. I don't know about you guys, but I thought it was a prank. I thought someone had dubbed that Looney Tunes soundtrack over the tank. It was actually what it sounded like. And then, man, I don't know if you saw the marching in front of their review stand or even better, the soundtrack. I mean, the Army chose Fortunate Son.
Right.
They chose a protest anthem about a little rich kid who avoided the draft. One of the lyrics from that song is, and when the band plays Hail to the Chief, they point the cannon at you. I think it might have been the most expensive prank in history, but I'm here for it. So, happy birthday, Foxtrot, Delta Tango. The vets will know what that means. Let's see more of that, more of the split screen. No Kings versus a pathetic would-be tyrant and his own army mocking him.
Jesus.
Well, especially as he moves forward with what looks like plans to get us involved with that army in Iran. I
Indeed.
guess he thinks we're batting cleanup for the Israelis today. I mean, he's pretty sure we're over there. Military seems to think that we're moving things and pre-staging, but we don't have anything over the top of Iran at this particular second. But he owns the airspace, so he's willing to tell you on True Social all about it.
It's the best place to get your updates direct from the front. True Social, of course.
Yeah, of course. That's where I go for all my minute by minute from draft dodging wannabe.
Definitely.
True Social told me to put on this shirt today.
If you really want, before I heard Malcolm about to introduce himself, but if you really want the best news, you got to go on Pete Hegseth's Signal chat. That's where you're going to find
That is
exactly what's going on the front lines, minute by minute.
Yeah,
journalists don't know about that.
You just gotta ask his brother nicely for an invite. That's all it takes.
it's really it's there, and it's the War Thunder Discord, because that's where you get the latest classified intel just brought right out to you.
I heard Doug's going to be invited next because he's reporting for Sons of Liberty and Political Drain. So.
Oh yeah, well, I told him I thought it was really cool, and they put me in immediately.
Yeah, buddy.
That's all I needed to say.
As to that blood fronted, but it comes with the Trump cellular plan there, Brina.
Malcolm Ritchie, go ahead.
Hey, it's nice to see you again there, Big Sarge. Nice
to see you.
Sergeant Doug, too. And, boy, I had a fantastic time in Washington, D.C. They say that success goes to the bold, so I walked right up there when Ken had a minute. But, hey, Ken, come over here. And he was like, what the hell is this dude? Got in there and get it when you can. But, he was mentioning Looney Tunes, and my TikTok video today did just that. And, of course, I got a copyright strike. Been playing with the Looney Tunes. I mean, it's truly just if it wouldn't be so tragic, if it wouldn't be so tragic, it would be funny. And watching Big Sarge was one of the first things that spurred me to decide I was going to run for Congress. I got to give you credit. And then I met Doug. And that
don't blame me for this.
Then, when I called Congressman Michael Ruley's number about 200 times and never got any response, I said, you know what? I'm going to run for Congress because this guy isn't doing anything at all. for this district. I don't even know why he's there. So
I'm sure he doesn't know why he's there.
I'm sure he doesn't care why he's there.
So what you're running in Ohio? What congressional district is this?
the 6th congressional district, and part of it used to be Ken's district, but they redrew the lines. And of course, that is a right reserved to the Ohio State Legislature, which has been ruled by the Republican Party for about 40 years. So they redrew the district again. Now they're to redraw it again. I mean, it's just crazy the way they've drawn this thing the past couple of times. As one example, one of my big cities is Massillon, Ohio. Massillon, Ohio has the district boundary line run right through the center of the city of Massillon. I mean, it's the most ridiculous stuff I've ever seen. And you know, it's going to be a tough fight just because of what's going on and the way they've drawn the boundaries to favor the Republican Party. But you know, we're getting a lot of traction real quick. And I went to the protest in Youngstown, Ohio, No Kings protest on Saturday, and there was over people there, and they did let me speak, so that was really a good thing.
So I'm from Youngstown, in case nobody knew that. I was born in St. East in Youngstown. So not far from where you are, Malcolm Ritchie.
Well, better check something.
Uh-oh, he heard I was from Youngstown. He decided he better leave.
Yeah, he said, oops.
He said, peace out.
He's holding it against me.
Somebody came to the door.
So a question for you, actually, being in Ohio, what is the what's kind of the pulse, the social pulse about Vance right now, back in the home state?
I haven't really that. We have a Democratic seems to be polling very well so far. We've been to several of her events, and actually she didn't even talk to me. She just talked to my wife. But, you know, as far as J.D. Vance, I've really heard very little at all from anybody about J.D. Vance. I just don't know what to say about that.
Oh, man, it's fair. I feel like the fact that you haven't heard much is kind of a little telling in and of itself.
Look, the guy isn't from Ohio, right? That's just an opportunistic footprint. He is a chameleon, not just in where he's from, but in who he is. I get into arguments with Vance supporters all the time, including one big Vance funder who said, you know, I know J.D. Vance. He's not what you see on TV. And my response is, you can't know J.D. Vance because J.D. Vance doesn't even know J.D. Vance. Right. Look, I went to I was at Yale with J.D. Vance, right? And I've interviewed his roommate. I've talked to his professors. I've had the same professors. The guy has spent his entire life trying to imprint on a father figure. I'm not a shrink, but it's pretty clear when you look at his relationship with the billionaire Peter Thiel, when you look at just how he bent the knee to Donald Trump, this is a deeply psychically wounded person. And for Ohioans, I think the best/worst example of that was his victimization of a hardworking, loyal immigrant community in Springfield, Ohio. Yeah. By the way, that lie about eating cats and dogs, that came from a hardcore right-wing Nazi group called Blood Tribe. They invented this lie. It got traction. And when something like that gets traction and is deemed politically useful, the Republican Party of today runs with it. And its biggest cheerleader, that lie's biggest cheerleader, was J.D. Vance, talking about his home state. And when pressed on it, when it was when it was discovered that it was a lie, I mean, anyone who knows Ohio knows it was a lie, but when media actually turned up in Springfield, when the Republican officials in Springfield said this isn't happening, J.D. Vance's response on the record was, sometimes you have to make up stories to have the political effect you want. The Ohioans who know J.D. Vance know that side of him, and frankly are disgusted, especially the vets among us. You have a veteran from Ohio who lies about his state and victimizes its most vulnerable residents for political gain. And look, I don't know what else to say, but he is a disgrace to the uniform, to the Corps, and to the state that I call home.
Oh, and make no mistake, that was a while ago, around the time he asked Zelensky if he'd even once said thank you. I asked Sarge to put a message in a video for me, to, essentially saying that I was embarrassed that I put on the same uniform he did. So more of that, I'm embarrassed that we got out at the same rank. Oh, fuck.
Yeah, and by the way,
anybody be a corporal these days. Yeah. Jesus.
It's not really a reason for anybody to be embarrassed. He's the fucking disgrace. So it's not like, it's like we admitted this person into our clique and very quickly realized that was a mistake. That's about the only embarrassment.
Well,
fair.
The real problem isn't J.D. Vance. The real problem is what Mr. Harbaugh, what Ken said. He knows somebody who funds him and tells him outright that he's not the same person you see on TV. Then why the fuck are you funding him? Why is that okay? At what point did that become okay? No, I know that he's lying to you. Don't worry about it. He's lying to get power. That's okay, right? The fact that you say that to somebody and that is the excuse and not the thing you're hiding lets me know that politics is a game that's all about this TV show, the reality show, the moneyed interest, and that's why we have a Trump. The mere fact that somebody looks you in your face and says, I'm giving money to this candidate because I know him personally, he's really cool, but he just plays an asshole on TV so he can get elected, lets me know that that's the same guy who will do the same thing in Congress and as vice president for power. And
100%. Yep.
Well, it also tells you that he knows what he's saying and doing and pushing for is wrong.
Makes it even worse.
If he's not willing to act the same in private, then he knows the way he's behaving in public is wrong. Which just makes it even more reprehensible.
That's the reason why there'll never be all of these other sycophants can't be Trump. All of them are evil. Many of them are smarter. Trump is actually a dullard, an actual stupid third-grade reader that is still stuck in his preteen years, getting rejected by women and his parents. Like, he's still there. And unless you're actually there, people know you're lying to them. People know you're playing this game so that you can make money with the dear leader. Like, it's something that you can't fake. And all the rest of them are faking it. And Trump, they found that actual regressed, I don't know what to call, I mean, just a worm of a person that actually has a narcissism, actually thinks that he deserves the presidency. And it's so hard to find someone that actually fantastically bad at everything and stupid on purpose. And they found him. He's just the luckiest person on earth. All the evil people are using him, and the smarter people than him are using him. And when he's gone, rest assured, they can't pick up that mantle, right? Like, I heard someone talking about while the Elon beef was happening that, oh well, maybe they're trying to get Trump down and have JD Vance be president, and that'd be worse because he's smarter than him. And I'm like, yeah, that's not what they want. The minute that they don't have the actual real thing, who knows where they're gonna go? But it's not gonna be where Elon's expects it to be. Number one, and they won't have his back. This guy cannot just say that. He can't just say they're eating the cats and dogs if it's not for a Trump behind him. Right? You don't no none of these people can get away with that because it's not real. They're not really that.
Not to mention as well that if you don't have Trump at the hub of this weird power dichotomy between some of the absolute worst people to be in power possible, that you don't have the current freedom that they have to pull and do their own little things. Because you had, say, J.D. Vance in as president, I don't think he would allow, say, Stephen Miller to just run his own policy. I mean, we may have been paying attention to the No Kings protest, but you may also seen Trump first reverse course on his immigration policy, and then within 24 hours, that's reversed too, because he's not driving. It's whoever whispers in his ear the loudest and the last is where that policy goes. I don't even know if he remembers reversing it over the weekend. I don't think he's there enough to. And if you take that out, you're going to see a struggle for all these different factions that are currently trying to push their agenda within the Trump sphere. Now, they align on a number of things, don't get me wrong, but there's definitely a number of things that they don't. And whoever gets to the top of that garbage heap is going to dictate what that policy is. And you're not going to see it rubber banding all over the place like it does with Trump. And I very much doubt that, well, rubber banding isn't good for us either, but I very much doubt that them being focused on objectives is going to be a good thing for this country.
I got a question for Lieutenant Colonel, retired. I don't think we said that Lieutenant Colonel retired Malcolm Ritchie. Ken just reminded me that whole line about the cats and dogs and the whole racist thing, the Nazis that were there, or the KKK. I think you said neo-Nazi group. Ohio, especially in the 6th district, is extremely hard to win for a Democrat. Maybe not anymore. There's no such thing as extremely hard anymore, because the people Trump has ruined the Republican Party. But with that type of fervor for the right, we'll just call it that, for right-wing ideas, how can you not do what Vance did? How can you be the progressive, the on point, the person that I've happened to come to know you as, which I'm sure everyone else will during this time, and not, when you get in front of the camera, have to play a role or a game in order to get those people that far right to fall in, right? How do you avoid that?
Well, it's not going to be a game for this office, based on everything that I've been taught since childhood about the country. And this is going to be a dog-eat-dog race to go through for me. I don't even want to do this. There's no ego involved here. I am doing this because I think that it is critical for a better life for my 3 grandchildren that I try to do this. I mean, it's going to be brutal just through the primary. I've been the county Republican county Democratic Party very supportive so far. but I've had a couple of problems with a couple of county chairmen. So I have an opponent in the primary, Michael Kripchak. We have met and talked. And I said, look, friends, no matter what happens with us, if you win this primary, I support you 100%. I'll do everything I can do to help them. So, we're offering choice, and we're out there every day running for 11 counties. I just went to Washington County Democratic meeting in Marietta. I'm getting a lot of good support. And of course, it's the bylaws of the Ohio Democratic Party. In a primary race, they cannot endorse either candidate. So, but I'm still getting a lot of support. What I'm doing, and I'm not going to change my focus for any reason at all. And I'm going into VFWs. I'm a life member of the VFW. There's a lot of red country support in the VFWs, but I'm starting to see it cracking, because as some of these veterans from Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan are seeing what's going on here, they're being shook out of the stupor that they're in, and they're starting to do critical thinking. And actually, the Vietnam vets are the ones that are coming up to me the most, saying this is completely insane. So, I'm going to stick on message to why I'm in this race in the first place, because we're going to have to rebuild this country. If we win the House of Representatives in 2026, and we somehow manage to save the country and the Constitution, the mess that we are going to spend the next 10 to 20 years cleaning up would be a massive undertaking. And only the most serious people should be involved in this process. And once we get rid of these morons like Mike Ruley, at least he can come out and run his mouth. He doesn't say anything. The last post he on his Facebook page was a big, beautiful bill. Okay. I put my butt online going to protest. I put my butt online going to the Russell Senate building 2 weeks ago. Went in to talk to Senator Houston's staff and say, you know what? If you pass this big, beautiful bill, you're committing political suicide at this point, because people are very unhappy. Unfortunately, it came to this. But hey, look, we're human beings. A lot of times, until it affects us directly, we don't give a shit. I'm going to tell you what, working class people in this Ohio, the stuff is starting to affect, they're starting to come out. The diehard fanatics on the right are never going to come around, but there's still 10-15% of them that are doubts, and they're starting to rethink their position. I've had conversation after conversation, especially with veterans and VFW, that they're saying, this is not normal. This is not what we signed up for. We certainly don't want to go to war with Iran. Okay, for one thing. And we certainly see that, I call it as I see it, the dictator of the United States has become extremely unstable. He's got his finger on the nuclear trigger, and I'm not the only one thinking this way. So I just have to stick on message. I have to energize my base of Democrats so that I can win this primary. And of course, I think I'm going to get this job done, having been a combat veteran and 3 tours in Iraq. All the hell that I saw, this is going to be a tough campaign, but it's not going to be anything compared to being a company commander in 2006 and 2007 in Iraq. So I'm not shaking. I'm not nervous, and I'm not afraid. And people, I know it's coming. There's people around here that are going to know where I live. They're going to get a hold of some of my information. And I know the threats are coming. My Michael Kripchak, my opponent in the primary, when he ran against Mike Ruley in the special election and the general election last year, he got death threats. So as soon as I start to get noticed, and if I win the primary, I know what's coming. It doesn't scare me in the least. So I think I'm the one to go in there for the people of this district to turn this thing around, because, man, it is a difficult job of rebuilding this country that we've had since the Civil War. So that's what I got to say about it, Doug.
I love it. I love it.
So great.
Now, your opponent in the primary is the guy that lost the special election to the current representative. Is that right?
Well, what happened was you had Bill Johnson was represented for the 6th district. He got offered the job of president of Youngstown State University. It's also guy's a rabid Christian nationalist on top of it.
Oh,
He chose to take the job as president of Youngstown State University. So of course the Republican Party reserves the right to, fill in, and after 90 days they have to have a special election. So they chose Ohio State Senator Michael Ruley to fill in, and then a special election after 90 days. Special elections are notorious getting about 1/3 if of the voters to go and vote, and that's exactly what happened. About 1/3 of the voters went to vote. Michael Ruley won. By how much in that one? Then we went to the general election, and Kripchak got less than 1/3 of the vote, I believe. Didn't look all this stuff up. Look, he's a good guy. He's an Air Force Academy graduate, 8 years in the U.S. Air Force. And I don't have anything against him whatsoever. I just think that I have more experience, especially, I was talking about today on my TikTok video, which has got the most views I ever got on anything. I thought I was just blown away. My last job before I retired, I worked at Central Command Headquarters, CENTCOM. I worked for General Mattis' staff. I worked in the Interagency Action Group as a civil operations plan. And I worked on the Iran plan. Now, of course, I can't talk about the Iran plan, even though it was 2012. I don't want to lose my pension. But the only thing I will say is that any people have not experienced the military operations that's chomping at the bit. Oh, we're going to go smash Iran and all this. No, it's not going to be easy, folks. I'm telling you. It looks like Iran is down and out for it's not true. They strike back in multiple ways. They've still got thousands of missiles. They got tens of thousands, and use their proxies, and wouldn't that they have.
Oh, just cutting in and out.
I wouldn't even doubt from Iran that will start operations within our own country and do terror actions if we attack them. So this is not just we're on the verge of catastrophic warfare that's going to cost us if we don't to a stop. So, serious business.
Wow.
I'm about to have a big storm breaking loose here, but I wanted to find out from all y'all, that especially those that have served in the Middle East, which I think is pretty much everybody here, right? Except not me, obviously.
Except me.
What do you make of all this? I mean, especially considering your
part?
specialties.
Which part?
Well,
There's so many components to this.
There is, but I mean, especially coming from your own specific specialties, like, do you have any, knowledge, any experience about all of this, or?
My experiences with Iran are pretty much that when when 9/11 happened, Iran was like, "Oh, you need to get across our airspace? Oh, go right ahead, no problem, none whatsoever." Totally compliant because I think deep down they were like, "Let's not fuck with these guys at all right now." And realistically speaking, Iran hasn't really invaded anybody in ages. And yes, they fund, one or two terrorism groups that act as proxies, but ultimately their government doesn't really reflect the Iranian people the way that I understand it. A lot of the people, the citizens of Iran, are like basically being held hostage the same way that we are. We have a shit government and a whole bunch of people that are like, no, we don't want this. So meanwhile, Israel has attacked how many countries now? Not even counting Palestine.
I mean,
Well, in
I
what
think
time
it's-
span are we talking? In the last year, or like just overall?
Pick one.
I mean, so let's see: Pakistan, Iran, and then they
Saudi
Oh, yeah, I
Arabia,
saw that.
Egypt,
Don't
right?
forget
Saudi
Lebanon.
Arabia,
Lebanon. Yeah.
Mhm.
Lebanon.
This is going to galvanize the middle.
Did they attack
Is-
Jordan?
Yes.
Okay, all right, yeah.
I mean, not this year.
No, not recently, but
At some point, yes. Yes, they
Um,
did.
Why
yeah.
is this? Why are they doing this? I mean, why?
hold on.
I'll tell you
Yeah.
why.
My dog is asking for attention, so I figured I'd show
Is
him
it a
off. the chat.
hamburger?
It's a son. It's a stuffed son. It's his favorite toy. But I figured if he was here, I should show off my dog.
We all love James's dog. Everybody worship James's dog.
Yeah, Max is a good boy. He's an idiot, but anyway. So carry on. Sorry.
The Epstein Files. You've seen that movie, Wag the Dog? Who's
Uh-huh.
wagging the dog?
I have
Wagging it
not.
pretty hard.
I have not seen that movie.
100%.
So wag the dog is a term that essentially means manufacture a crisis to divert attention from somebody else. Remember the scene in The Wizard of Oz where he's like, pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. He's doing all
Yes,
this
right.
stuff with things. That's wag the dog.
Okay.
I don't know why. That's just what it is. And then there was a movie called Wag the Dog that came out. It was kind of
It was over the top, and conspiracy more.
it was
Yeah.
it was a kind of a criticism of the Iraq War. So that's where we're at right now. It's we need to manufacture a crisis. They're not falling for the shit in LA. They're not falling for the protesters standing on sidewalks, not standing in the streets. This is the last thing that they could really do. And they can't. The president can't declare war. Let me rephrase that. Technically, the president can't declare war. That's the job of Congress. But we've seen how that shit goes. But what the president can do is up to about 90 days can use troops at his discretion in operations other than war without the need of Congress. So I guess we'll see how this is going to play out, but I don't.
So I have two big things. One is kind of, I mean, my perspective on why we might get involved at all is pretty much the same, right? It's a distraction. I mean, this is a classic fascist move, right? Things aren't going well. The people aren't really responding well to you trying to consolidate power, which the American people are not responding well to Trump. Thank fucking the blood god.
Corn. All praise.
Yeah, praise be to corn.
Oh boy.
And you can just use my fucking Warhammer models in the background here. But anyway, so this is a common tactic for a lot of like fascist and authoritarian governments, right? To start a war, start something to both distract the people and be like, hey, there's your enemy. Go funnel energy into that.
Trying to manufacture consent. But I think, but my question is, I understand if I mean, that's one of the many things that Trump is trying to do and his regime. They realize that they hit the ground running too hard and got too much of a backlash. Too many people are getting hurt, so they can't manufacture it through the normal channels of racism like they thought they would. Fine. Well, my question is, why is Israel? I mean, you're already attacking Gaza. You already got what you need. Why are they consistently trying to destroy themselves and leave themselves nobody? Is that also just because they're hoping America, from the way that that what's his name is talking, it seems like he's trying to get America to join at all costs.
Yes.
But what's the benefit of them attacking 5 different countries in the span of 6 months?
So
It keeps Bibi out of
As long
jail.
as
well, I also
It
have
keeps them out
Right.
of jail.
I have a theory about how
All
it
the
might
crisis
benefit them
keeps going.
strategically, actually, even as well, because one of the things we have to bear in mind is Iran. They state sponsor insurgent organizations. One of the biggest ones is, as I recall, Hezbollah. Right. Hezbollah does they do regularly have some conflict with Israel, right? They're a regular player in they skirmish with all sorts of polities in the region. Hell, when I was in Jordan, I was like an hour away from being activated to and being sat on a freaking border post where where United States Marines had regular border skirmishes with Hezbollah, right? So Hezbollah having somewhat of an involvement in trying to interfere with the Gazan genocide is, I think, the strategic angle for Netanyahu pushing for a regime change in Iran. It's also, I think, probably the major concern is like Iran. In conventional warfare, since my understanding is Iran doesn't really have a lot to reach out and touch us
They don't.
especially. They might, and they can, in a limited and not necessarily effective capacity, reach out and touch Israel. But they have their state-sponsored proxies, which can infiltrate and, utilize terror tactics to do some significant damage, especially given, like developments in drone warfare and infiltration warfare that we've seen coming out of Ukraine recently. There's a lot of potential for them to use their proxies to do a lot of damage. And I think that's probably the biggest concern. I mean, take that with a grain of salt. Like, I'm some dipshit reservist corporal, but like that from what I know, that's kind of where my head's at with it.
I think also, if you look at like you were saying with the piece in Ukraine, is that Iran has been developing their drone program through combat in Ukraine because they're supplying the Russians with a lot of those same drones. They're learning lessons just like the Ukrainians are.
I personally, I don't know a lot about like battle training and all that stuff. I'm real skeptical of both Trump and Netanyahu. I think that their stars are aligned, their goals are aligned. All they want is to maintain power. The entire point of all of this is to effectively stay in war. Go to war, stay in war. If you go to war and you stay in war, you stay in power. That's the way dictators do it. That's the way authoritarians do it. And effectively, that's the way that I think that Netanyahu sees that he can stay in power, period. That to me, that's the entire point.
And
I agree. I can agree with that.
I'd like to ask Ken what his analysis of Netanyahu's right now.
Well, let me first respond to the drone thing, because I've been on the receiving end of that fairly recently, and I will tell you, I've felt what it's like when a Shahed drone hits, and it bears reminding folks that these are not sophisticated weapons. They're mass produced by the tens of thousands so that they can terrorize civilian targets. Right, the ones that I've seen land in Ukraine, and I've seen it with my own eyes, have hit apartment buildings. That I've seen like up close. I've also seen the aftermath of them hitting hospitals and schools. That's what these drones are good for. And you're absolutely right. The Iranians are probably learning just as quickly as the Ukrainians are how the next war is going to be fought. I mean, Ukraine is inventing the way of warfare for generations to come. I was in Ukraine when Operation Spiderweb unfolded, and we'll never forget the Russian counterattack. It was absolutely brutal and continues to this day. I think the real challenge in parsing an unfolding geopolitical event like this, when one of the protagonists is Netanyahu and when another semi-protagonist is Donald Trump, is that we can no longer trust what we're hearing from our own government. You can no longer trust what a democratically elected leader is saying, because democracy has become so corrupted. And it didn't used to be that way. Look, I was never that naive about the trustworthiness of the American government, but you have to admit it was different 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. Today,
even under Biden,
my default position is don't believe them. My default position used to be, trust but verify. Now it's don't trust and don't believe anything they say. And that is a huge problem when it comes to anything national security related. If you're wondering why the Ukrainians kept Operation Spiderweb from the Trump administration, it's because they can't trust him, right?
Yeah.
And it also raises this notion that America has become a spectator that has to react to events, not lead events. That's my other big takeaway about what is happening. We are no longer setting the agenda. We are no longer telling our allies what they can and can't do, or telling our enemies what they better not do. We are reacting to events that other people are initiating. And that is not the behavior of a superpower. I think those days are gone, and it's Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth's fault. And I got to run because I got some family stuff. I'm going to try to hop back on. But my 2 cents for what it's worth. Thanks,
Always worth having you,
Appreciate
Ken.
that, man.
thank you.
You bet.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for
Thank
being
you.
here, Ken.
You got it.
Thanks, Ken.
Nice.
In
Go
there,
ahead.
I want to bring something up, which, certainly if Rumsfeld and Bush and Cheney didn't pay any attention to it, Trump and Hegseth aren't going to pay attention to it either. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's get sucked into this damn thing against the people, of course, but still, there's no civil military operations plan. What do we do afterwards?
Right.
Why we lost Afghanistan. When we started out, we did it right. When we started out, we did special forces,
Yep.
civil affairs, psychological operations, special operations stuff, working with the different tribal leaders in Afghanistan that were opposed to the Taliban. We had an SF captain on horseback. That was the thing. Living with them, eating their food, getting to know their families, unconventional warfare. But you know what? The military-industrial complex hates unconventional warfare. You know why? Because it doesn't make enough money.
Yep.
It doesn't make
Yep.
enough. And what do we do? We bomb the shit out of Iran, support Israel. Then what are we going to do? They have no freaking. They have no idea what to do.
No idea. No plan.
Try it like in Iraq, and it's going to be 10 times worse.
Or like as Adrian says, the plan is just stay in war. Just constantly, it's always war. War as long as you live. So that
I seem
But
to
guys,
remember
we'll
another
be
world
greeted as
leader.
liberators. What
I
composed
see.
to?
I seem to remember another world leader who started a lot of wars, and his son got his fucking head cut off.
oh, wait, who's
Louis
this?
the 15th.
Yeah.
Louis the 15th.
Well, here's the problem.
And it's
happen.
a pretty big contributor to why the French started cutting heads off.
Yeah.
And you know, it didn't. Guess who? Did it also didn't work out for Hitler? You know, like history is full of examples of people who try to go into perpetual war, and it gets them fucking killed.
Well,
Yeah.
if I could jump in here real quick. Sorry if I'm being so aggressive. I respect
Do it.
No, go for it. Go for it.
Absolutely.
If I'm talking too much, talk over me. It's fine.
the hope.
Used to it.
The hope that we're trying to solve this politically. You know, let's be honest with each other. We all know it. We're on the verge of potentially a global conflict, and we're on the verge of civil war in this country. Let's just admit it right now to ourselves. Okay? People like myself, Vice Admiral Laubacher in Colorado, Major Ojeda in North Carolina, and Sergeant DeVito in Alabama. Okay? If we can all get elected in the 2026 midterm election, we turn the House of Representatives, and we put a halt to all this insanity. We put a halt to it. We put a Speaker of the House for the Democratic Party in, you know, and look, Democratic Party is not perfect. I've had some trouble with them already, but it's all we got. You know, it's all we got. We get the House, put a stop to this, and then we start to rebuild.
How? I'd like to know how, because I'm gonna tell you, with all due respect, Lieutenant Colonel, with all due respect, I would love to see how, because if you're in there and you have the Speaker of the House, you better make sure that the Speaker of the House isn't also being paid by the same people that the Republicans are, which has been what we've been going through, why we have Trump now.
Preach.
Right? How?
Go ahead. That's four of us' responsibility, and maybe we can put some kind of coalition together between four of us to force the next Speaker of the House, that will be a Democrat, to force him to, first off, I'm not going to say within 24 hours. We all know how that goes. But first agenda we're going to be on to repeal the Homeland Security Act. That's got to be number one on the agenda. Repeal the Homeland Security Act. Okay? And then we can is the Immigration Customs Enforcement Agency, or do away with it altogether. I don't know.
Can you
committee meeting?
Can the House repeal and voted on has already been voted on by both houses, right?
Well, the House can submit a bill that would repeal the legislation.
Right.
So
the Senate would also have to.
Yeah, it would still have to be voted on by the Senate, but that's something the House can put forward.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I certainly would put that forward. You know.
Yeah.
They say you're the junior representative from Ohio. That's not going to stop me from writing up a bill and putting it in committee. And if you got the four of us and a retired vice admiral as a member of the House in Colorado, I mean, I think we could be a strong force to really turn this thing around. That's the only hope we got, and that's what we're for. You know, this has got to be a political.
Well,
I would love to see
that. I do want to point out there is the potential that you might have a lot more allies that are more broadly aligned and breaking ranks with the Democratic establishment. Because, I mean, as far as the Democratic Party, we all know, like, we all have brains. We know the Democratic establishment specifically and the DNC are the issue, right? But there are more. We're seeing a fair few amount of people running for congressional office in both, I think mostly in House of Representatives, but also in the Senate, who are, in the same boat as you, where they're pissed off, right? This isn't working. Like, we're not getting things done. People aren't being represented. Fuck it, I'm going to do it myself. I think there's the potential for a lot of incoming young Democratic representatives to align, like you were saying, But I think your idea of the number, right, is maybe too limited. Start trying to become a powerful voting bloc, and it might take some time, but I think it will potentially go a long way towards pushing the DNC to actually get their heads on straight and stop doing stupid fucking shit like firing David Hogg.
Yeah. I would like to see that coalition, though, of hardcore vets who we know are fighters join the Progressive Caucus, right? The Justice Democrats,
Yeah.
And show solidarity there. I think the problem, my main question of why simply is the reason why I asked it is because it seems like no matter how much we had, like when Obama had 60 plus votes in the House, the Senate, and the presidency, instead of going for a single payer, he went for an old Republican bill. Even to this day, while and I'm not saying that I'm not glad that millions of people now have health insurance that didn't before because of the uh, the Care Act. What was it?
Days, yeah.
Yeah. Obamacare. But the truth is, we have to. I need to know how we're fighting for when we get progressives in there, we get you in there and Ojeda in there, and you already have the AOCs and all of it, and the Katie Porters. Was she lost? I don't know, but I hope she didn't lose. She's still there, right? Anyway, the point is, even with all these numbers, I need to see some sort of a plan, and not today, but I want to be thinking of a plan on how to, whether it's taking money from them, whether it's finding a way to squeeze their bases, primary them, squeeze their monies from Wall Street, whatever it is, find a way to get these people who just seem to always want to play around middle game, center right. The people who always find a way to get mad at trans folks when the truth is they lost MAGA for a different reason. The people like Newsom, who no matter how good he gets, he finds a way to throw the trans folks under the bus.
Or the homeless folks.
Or the homeless folks under the bus. The people like the guy in New York who goes, well, you know what? If Kamala didn't, harp on the trans and the gay thing, if we weren't so woke, we might have won. What do you mean? She never talked about it because they're scared to talk about it. And it's like they're always handing these bones to people who will never vote for them. And as long as we have those people in there, now first of all, we got to elect you, fine. And I'm not ever saying don't elect a Democrat. What I want to see is a plan to stifle those idiots, to stifle those greedy bastards.
And having a plan from that congressional leadership point, right? It's going to pay dividends, and like there's definitely a role that the people still have to play in all of this, of course, right? Like we can't let pressure off of the Democratic Party, right? We still have to be going out there and demonstrating. Like, unfortunately, in my opinion, the Democratic establishment needs to be like almost as much of a target as the GOP right now because of their complacency. And we, as the general people, can't let our foot off the gas. Even after the Trump regime, we can't let our foot off the gas. I think even part of how we got here in the first place was people on the left not actually continuing to push and protest and be active in terms of progressive policy and trying to push the Democrats to do things like support trans rights and everything like that. But I think, and where I agree with Doug here is that folks like you, Lieutenant Colonel, you have a unique ability to work with other more progressive folks to help develop plans to disrupt the Democratic establishment, and that's going to be something a lot of people are going to be looking for from you, that leadership from you to help guide us into how we can help do that.
I do want to play devil's advocate here a bit, and that one thing that we cannot let ourselves be trapped into is the unicorn paradigm, where we're
Right.
This guy sucks, this guy sucks, this guy sucks. We're waiting around for Superman to land from Krypton that's going to magically be a perfect candidate on every single possible thing and everything we want. And the reality is that everybody is inherently flawed, that even the best candidates are going to have things that maybe we don't agree on one particular thing. Maybe we don't have this or that, but they're going to be a hell of a lot better than Trumpism, all the shit show going on. So I do support pushing the DNC to embody more of the actual liberal ideals that we are asking for. Absolutely. I'm just saying that we can't just cut off everyone if we can't just all stay home if all the candidates on the ballot are not the perfect lineup of people that we want. We may disagree with them on a particular issue. We may have to make some compromises in that regard. Now, I certainly don't like that idea at all, but I'm also a realist. And a lot of these races are not swinging by huge margins. They're swinging by pretty small margins. Margins that, a little bit of, them calling in bomb threats to voting centers and enough propaganda on Facebook to make people want to stay home. They don't have to promote their guy. They just got to make you not be perfectly happy with yours.
And
Yep.
I do want to be clear. Nothing I said is something that I intend to advocate for not voting, to only voting for a perfect candidate. I mean, I fucking hated Kamala Harris, right? I still voted for her, right? Like, I'm very, very passionate about specifically what's going on in Gaza. I still voted for Harris, right? I mean, I live in Pennsylvania. Shapiro's really, really bad about specifically that issue. If he's running against a Republican, I'm going to vote for Shapiro. Hell, I even saw somebody on another YouTube comment on another creator video earlier today that I, against my better judgment, responded to, talking about how, it's better to not engage in presidential elections because, nobody's like, there's no way to vote against imperialism. And I was like, yeah, that really worked out. For you? Yeah, it's like, going for you? That's pretty much my response. Is like, yeah, I think we should probably just vote for the person who's less shitty because, as we can see from the last 6 months, your idea doesn't fucking work.
Yeah.
But
I
just want to be clear that I 100% agree with you there, Matt. Is purity testing is shooting us in the foot. Anybody who's actively standing up to fascism right now, that's where our bar needs to be. And from there, right, like if we agree with them on whatever, we can put pressure on them through demonstration, through political activism to try to push them whichever way we want, right? I mean, I use the example of David Hogg. I'm very angry that he got ousted from the DNC, but I mean, there's things I disagree with him on. Like, I disagree with him on especially gun control issues, but like, he's still somebody who I think the Democratic Party needs, and still somebody who I think, especially my generation, being in my I'm in my now.
I like that.
Needs as representation for my generation as well.
Yeah.
So.
And to speak to your thoughts on Gaza, like whatever faults Harris has, I mean, there was the Israelis just shot up a bunch of people today, 50 plus dead, 200 wounded.
Yeah. Trump is always going to be worse.
It would it's going to be worse with Trump. Of course,
Yeah.
it's going to be worse with Trump.
And it's not just the fact that it's going to be worse. It's the fact that the systems that we have to prevent or to provide checks and balances against or to remove somebody are being eroded.
Right.
So it's not just the whole ideological or party purity thing. It's the lack of action or the direct action against the one candidate that's going to beat the quote unquote bad guy that allows the bad guy to get in and say, you know what? Now I'm in. I'm like a fucking cyst. You're never going to get rid of me. No amount of surgery. I'm going to be here, and now I'm going to undermine everything. And that was the danger. And people who were like, Kamala Harris didn't say anything about Palestine. I'm not going to vote. Thanks. You fucked the rest of us. You fucked the whole planet, you fucking fucker.
There's one. I think there's one specific creator on YouTube who I think summed it up the best for me. I don't know if any of y'all follow Jessie Gender. If you don't, you should.
I do.
She's fucking phenomenal. Amazing
Good.
creator, great with all sorts of different topics, but especially with trans issues and everything.
Star Trek, baby.
Oh yeah, I know nothing about Star Trek, but everything I know about Star Trek I learned from Jessie Gender. But as she said right before the election in one of her videos, she was saying that as a leftist, and I'm paraphrasing here, but she was saying as a leftist, nobody actually really represents what you want. But one of the things you get to choose in an election are the conditions you organize under. Are you going to organize under somebody who is at least going to be slightly more amenable to your message? Are you going to organize under somebody who's going to allow you to organize and try less to gerrymander and disenfranchise folks? Are you going to or are you going to organize under somebody who's going to do what Donald Trump is doing?
Yeah.
Right.
And like I'm a fucking, social democrat just as much as a bunch of other people, right? Like, I would love to see all sorts of lefty commie bullshit.
Though
Bring it on.
At the same time,
but like,
no one hates leftists more than other leftists.
Yeah, right. Like
we eat our own. We eat our own for sport.
It's eating your own to like working within. Like I know the Democrats represent the status quo, and I hate the status quo. But working within the status quo is a lot fucking easier than working with the fucking full-on goddamn fascism. And it's so frustrating. It's still so frustrating. Yeah, it's crazy.
You telling me?
Who would have fucking thought? Right? Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. And it's so frustrating to me that there's people that like
this guy
don't or still equivocate the two sides or say like, it's not worth it if they're not perfect or anything like that. Because it's whether intentionally or not.
We got this guy holding up a book, a Mein Kampf book. I want to know why. What's going on?
So do I.
Talk to me.
Know your enemy, dude.
Either that, or we have a new guest that is unwanted.
Yeah. Talk to me. Talk to me, Malcolm. What's that about?
I'm picking up on what he's on what you're saying here, because it's like, look, when I finally get out there, people actually start listening to me in public, which is going to happen pretty soon. Okay, I'm going to carry that book with me, and I'm going to carry.
I can't actually see what book that is.
What's that?
Common Sense. Common Sense.
Okay. Thomas Paine.
Love me some Thomas Paine.
So, which guy do we want to continue to follow?
I like it.
That guy.
Okay, I got you.
Or do you want to
make it?
Okay.
Make it real to them. This is what you're doing. I got a question for you though.
I want to interject one thing. All right. So every year, every election, I volunteer and I go and I work the polls, and nothing out of you, Tim. Don't even say it.
Don't
Don't even say it, Tim.
Tim is dying to
He
say
wasn't the
something.
only
I
one
know.
thinking it, by the way.
I work at the polls with a book,
Yeah.
Listen,
with a
all
book
right.
and
If
a,
you're
and a
Everyone's
cup
gotta
of
have a gimmick.
tea.
like
Everyone's gotta
you
have a
know, don't get off my back.
With a book and a cup of tea, you miscreants. All right.
That's, you
And
notice
I
that's
sit
what
next
Sarge is
to you,
into.
and I sit next to some amazing active Black women every single year in and year out. Okay. And what really pisses me off about my people on the left, I'm a leftist. All right. And whenever I get into arguments, I have a group that I founded years ago, and I get leftists come in there and they argue with me all the time about how, Kamala wasn't uh pure enough, and Obama wasn't pure enough, and Biden wasn't pure enough, and fucking A, none of them were. Okay. But then I go and I sit next to these women working at the at the polls on election day, and we sit there for 15 fucking hours, right? And we do our duty, and they do phone banking, and they do canvassing, and they do all of this work. And that is how you make change, through
Yeah.
slow incremental fucking change. And these I call them Instagram patriots. They're Instagram leftists. They want to do the little pose, and say, hey, I was at the protest. And it's like, bitch, where were you 5 years ago? Where were you 10 years ago? I don't want
Yep.
to hear it. All right.
Yeah.
Where were you when we were doing phone banking? Where were you when we were out? Where were you at the county commission meeting? Because I was sitting there by myself with my kid. All right. I didn't see you.
It's so
As a matter of
true.
fact, I didn't see anybody.
Well,
All right. So I don't want to fucking hear it from any
So
of these leftists who sit there and they talk about, well, not pure enough. Bitch, get out there and do something about it.
so you got to change it from you got to be the change. It's all about we the people. So one thing is if we get through this, it's not a guarantee. I say we are. I say we're going to win. They don't have the numbers. If we get on the other side of this, it will behoove all of us to make channels like this, channels like Political Drain, channels like The Enemy from Within. It behooves all of us to make activism a part of daily life, a part of how we teach our kids, a part of how we do education, a part of how we do church, about a part of how we do work, a part of how we do library, a part of how we do school. America, a democracy, it only works. We're finding out if at all times activism, doing something, calling somebody, working the poll, with or without panties. It's just whatever it is. With you, it was only because you said something. Because you said,
I knew you couldn't. You just couldn't stop from bullying me, could you?
no,
Always got a bully.
no. I love it. I love it. And all I'm saying is, it needs. I think after this, we'll realize that they spent 50 years trying to overturn Roe versus Wade and get a dictatorship. They had think tanks working on it. They had entire channels and presidents built to do what we're here for today, and got it right. While we said, "Oh, they said we got this." That's it. You don't know how many black folks. I can say this. Probably the only one I'll take it from is a lot of black people decided that, well, we don't have a leader anymore. This is something that in the black community we talk about. That you're looking to look behind the scenes. We were looking for another king, or we're wondering, should we fight this way or that way? Obama's not black enough. He didn't do enough for the black community. We have the FBAs, Foundational Black Americans, and they're telling us we forgot that every single day after 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 King was assassinated, we should have been still in the streets, still working for the working people, still going for the working man's march, right? We should have still been going for the sanitary workers' march, and we should still be looking for the next people to march for, and the next people to march for, and the women's march, and then maybe for the Asians, and then maybe for like we kind of as a country was like, well, yeah, we're kind of liberal now. We'll just be good. And I think 100% Asia, the point is activism, community service, these types of things need to be something that is seen as a regular American thing. It needs to be a part of our everyday schooling, learning, living, churching, working, talking, being life. That's the only way we get to keep this thing for another 100, 200, 400 years. 100%.
Surprising nobody, this leads me to a specific soapbox I have.
Okay.
This being my issues with Pride Month, actually. When the fuck did Pride stop being a goddamn protest, and who decided that was a good goddamn idea?
Okay.
Right.
Got you.
As a young queer individual, right? So a bisexual, gender fluid human being, it feels like, the LGBTQ plus community at one point decided, like, okay, we got the right to marry whoever the fuck we want, and we're done.
Yep.
And it's emblematic of what you're saying, right? Like, Pride never should have stopped being a protest because we never got where we needed to be. We never got to the point where these rights are guaranteed, where they're codified in legislation, where it's locked in 100%. There's no possible way somebody could take this shit away from us. And it plays right into that thing of, Americans, I think as a whole, we get to this certain level and we get complacent and we forget this. We haven't done a good job of pushing ourselves. And I'm guilty of this too. I mean, I only started actually getting politically active. I mean, I've had these political beliefs for a while, but I only started actually getting politically active during the election. And afterwards.
That's when a lot of people get politically active. But I want to give grace to our brothers and sisters in the working class. All right, because we need to also acknowledge something that over the past, I want to say I was wearing, I took it off earlier, my t-shirt that said Reagan ruined everything, because he did. And ever since Reagan, the working class has had a foot on its neck, and we have been forced into a debt society where, in order to stay above, with our heads above water, we've had to take on more and more and more debt and work more hours. And we were, Gen Xers were brought up to believe that the more hours that you worked, the better you were, and you were going to get something at the end, some kind of a, some reward at the end. We never got. And the same thing, finally, the new generations are learning that's not the case. There's no reward at the end. And it's all just a ruse. We have been systematically, over the course of the past 50 years, the working class has been oppressed to the point where we don't have the cycles to be active. We don't have the cycles to be involved in our communities. We don't have the spare cycles to be able to do anything more than to work our asses off, come home, spend 5 minutes with our fucking kids, and go to sleep. Like, we're exhausted.
Yeah.
And having a clown in chief that just constantly, as what was it Steve Bannon says, fire hoses the public with constant deluge of drama is exhausting. We are exhausted. And that's why people don't feel like they can keep up with going into the streets. They can't keep up with, all the crap that's being pushed through the legislatures. They can't keep up with it because it's a lot. And there are people that are being paid a lot of money to make sure that we can't keep up with it, and it's obfuscated from us. So, there's got to be a better way of doing this. We've got to find some way to make it to where we can inform people, right, and get people to where they can contribute in some small way, and we can make those small ways all add up to something big.
Oh, I mean,
I want to take it back to Malcolm here. While we have him here, let me ask you a couple questions here. I want to know your idea on term limits. What do you think about term limits for Congress people and for senators? And then secondly, I think what goes to the conversation we've been having is what's your idea, plans or otherwise, for this money divide, the wealth gap that we have that is just constantly getting wider and wider, and the rich getting richer. Are we talking about are we talking about raising minimum wage, outlawing billionaires, period? Like those two things. Let me get your answer on the what's your idea on term limits, and next, how do we address this wealth gap between us so there aren't so many people who don't have a chance to be active in their community because they're literally coming home on the bus and the train and then waking up 3 hours later to go back again?
Well, first of all, Doug and everyone else, I am open to looking at term limits, of course, but also on the other end of it, in the state of Ohio, we've had term limits for a state legislature since the 1990s, I believe. We can all look up and see the exact date they passed that. Did it do any good? Actually, it didn't do any good because the Republicans, took control, have had total control of the Ohio state legislature for at least the last 20 years. So I'm open to that, and I want to say there should be term limits of a certain extent. Maybe, a lot less time in the House of Representatives, the direct link to the people, and maybe give the United States Senate a little more time because that's the more professional body that has to deal with, a lot of the higher level issues, foreign relations for one of them, treaties, stuff like that. So I'm certainly open to it. As far as the wage gap, man, I certainly know, that just like she talked about. And is that admin, Jen?
It's admin Asia.
Asia. Okay, I'm sorry. Admin Asia, I was listening to you very intently there. It's admin Asia. Asia, okay. I lived paycheck to paycheck most of my life, until very recently. I'm just fortunate a pension from the Army Reserve and from railroad retirement. Prior to that, I was living paycheck to paycheck most of my life. And just like she said, God, there was times where I thought, gee, I can't get ahead no matter what I do, no matter how many hours I work. We had the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers at the railroad. I worked for like about 4 years. And then somehow they managed to throw the out. And that's a whole different story that I don't want to get into. That's my own company. But, what are we going to do with this? What are we going to do about AI? They're talking in the next 4 years, that, what is it? 40% of the labor force will be gone because it'll just all be done by robotics and AI and on and on. Well, it's just like I proposed one of our podcasts before. You know, we have to transition this military industrial complex economy of constant and never ending war over to a national infrastructure building economy. When we put this forest fire out and we get rid of these people, we get rid of Trump, you know, we are going up with a program. And I mean, the new emerging technology is nuclear fusion power plants. And I know that's going to cause a lot of trouble with the left, but if you do the science, we're always saying, us progressives are always saying we believe in science. You know, nuclear fusion is completely different than nuclear fission power plants. We are going to have this technology to rebuild our electric grid. And like I said, finally catch up with Europe and Asia and institute a high-speed electrified rail transit system in the United States for both freight and passenger in the future. And that could offset at least for 20, 30, 40 years, because, you know, this is a constant battle, just like everything else with human beings. It's a constant battle. And if we could put out this forest fire that we're in first, and then come up with this way to transition to this new massive infrastructure rebuilding project, which, by the way, we can include defense contractors in doing that. You know, defense contractors can retool and, you know, build electric locomotives, you know, instead of building a B-2 nuclear capable bomber and capable of wiping out an entire country. So I mean,
I like that because it also incentivizes the other people with the money that they want. Like, so you got nuclear contracts. Okay, what am I going to get out of this? Well, we're planning on putting you there too. But it sounds like you're talking about the New Deal.
A new deal.
Right? Yeah.
Yep. Well, we also need, when you spoke about AI, in Europe, they have made it to where AI is regulated to where it cannot be used by the military. So basically, so AI companies are kind of struggling because they can't implement AI in Europe the same way that they can implement it here in the US. And personally, I think that's kind of a good way to go. But here in the United States, with the big horrible bill, they were trying to slip in that we couldn't put any regulations on AI for 10 years after it had already like seeped into everything. You know, so we need to make sure that we rein that in, and we put, you know, we slap regulations on that. You know, and we start forcing these AI companies to, you know, code their products so that they are cognizant of and aware of the people that they're supposed to serve, because otherwise we're going to be dealing with a big monster in, you know, like 10 years, if we're lucky, only 10 years. But I mean, it's, you know, and I know it sounds like, you know, doom and gloom, but it's, you know, if you listen to some of the founders that helped to create AI, they've been raising, you know, alarms about it. And you know, having our military have access to something like that, AI picking out, you know, targets and things like that. That's what Israel was doing. They were using AI to help them find targets in Gaza, and we saw how that turned out. So, you know, we need to be able to put the same kind of regulations on it as, you know, as other countries that are smarter than us apparently have. I mean, we are a young democracy, and we need to kind of take some of the ideas that older democracies and older countries have taken and, you know, apply them to ourselves. Stop being so full of hubris.
Well, what's so embarrassing about that is we're the oldest democracy and we're the youngest country, but they all got
country, that's what I meant. I'm sorry.
After us, and many of them are doing it better, and some of them are failing as well. So it comes down to, I think, the way we approach civics, the way we approach what it takes to keep a democracy. America has been coddled. Um, America, the reason why those black ladies that you work with are going so hard is because they have not been coddled. They understand that there's always been a regime against them. They understand that they have to always be fighting and they have to always be volunteering and thinking about the next thing. Um, and I think after this, hopefully everybody figures that out. Like it's only an election away or a Fox News report away from becoming what we see now, and we need to always be thinking civically. I'm gonna be back in about 5 minutes, guys.
Hey,
All right.
Say it again.
I wanted to add that the United States.
It's cut out. I can't hear you.
You're cutting out again.
Can you hear me?
All right, now.
How about now?
All right, I can hear you.
Tim, can you hear me?
Yeah.
The Russia has a military industrial complex, and so does China. So I mean, we always have to be on guard for that too. But I want to, and as we get, as I brought it up, Tim had to say about, us unilaterally, saying we're not going to use AI, military, as an intelligence NCO, that China restrain them. Wonder what kind of comment.
You're saying that China and the rest of them aren't going to be restraining themselves. So, that's what you're saying? Because it kind of was cut in and out, but I think I got the gist of it.
Yeah, I was asking Tim to comment on that.
Oh, Tim.
I'm in too raw of a place to comment on AI right now. I'm still mulling over this news that they just appointed a bunch of tech oligarchs from AI industries to the rank of lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army. Didn't even earn it.
What?
Yeah, y'all didn't see that?
No.
I did not see that.
It was
What
like
the
4 or
fuck?
5 dudes. There was like a
Holy
guy
shit.
from Palantir, a guy from Meta,
Oh my
and
God.
some other people that they just promoted to the rank of lieutenant colonel. It's 05.
What the fuck?
Exactly.
There's not enough alcohol in this world to fucking
It
tell
really
me tonight.
isn't.
I know, right? I need more of these.
I'm half a bottle of Merlot in, and I'm not emotionally prepared for this.
Holy
So I have a list of topics for this week that are all veteran focused. Today was the veterans getting arrested, the elderly Vietnam veterans getting arrested. Tomorrow, I wanted to do both of them today, but I couldn't. Tomorrow is going to be the VA now allowed to discriminate against unmarried veterans and Democrat veterans. And then if I have time, I'm going to work in the announcement that these 4 or 5 douchebags got promoted to just random civilians. They haven't no military experience, haven't been to OCS, nothing. They were just like,
I gotta go. Nah, I'll be back in 5. I cannot. Let me let that sink in before I respond. I'll be back in 5.
Well, see, the problem is that's going to be our time for today. So
yeah, I was just about to say, aren't we all hopping off to Ojeda?
Yeah. Jetta.
It's Ojeda time, y'all.
Ojeda time.
It's Ojeda time, and I want to let people go so they go watch that stream.
Love you guys.
Love you guys.
Thank you for tuning in.
Mr. Ritchie, thank
you.
you.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for asking for answering all these questions for you.
Yes, thank you for being here.
Man, you guys are great. Thank you.
And hopefully you'll come back on with us.
Yes, please come back.
Always.
Awesome.
Ritchie for Congress.
That's going to be our time for today. Upcoming live streams this coming Thursday, we have Deja Fox a young
Yay.
progressive Gen Z
Woo-woo.
candidate running for Arizona's 7th Congressional District. That'll be 7 p.m. Eastern, as per usual, here on the Sons of Liberty live stream.
Hell yeah.
Next Tuesday, we have Sunny from Tell the People podcast. She uses her platform to tell people about the businesses that support various candidates and politicians, to include Velveeta Voldemort. I'm also trying to align my schedule so that I can link up with Jolly Good Ginger, who I got to hang out with at the March 14th protest. He is
Ginger
an army.
Fest. Come on, I want to
So
join.
I have this idea, and I haven't run it by him yet, but I want to invite Angry Ginger, Jolly Good Ginger, and then I'll just be Scottish Ginger Ninja.
What about me? What about me? I'm a ginger.
Yeah, bring
you
it
gotta-
along.
Okay, but you got to turn your camera on for this one because it's got to be like
The ginger.
Yeah.
My
The gingers will have to be on it.
my beard grows in red. Does that count?
grow
What
it
if I
out.
get
Yeah.
a wig?
Yeah, I'll have to grow it out here.
Red-headed
Oh, yeah.
admin Jen?
All right. Jolly Good Ginger is an Army military intelligence veteran, like me, who served in Iraq and Afghanistan, also like me. So if it's an if, because he's got a busy schedule, and he's got like 5 million followers, and we got like not even 100,000. So if you're watching this and you are not part of the Fam of Liberty on the Sons of Liberty Discord server, then in the immortal words of every redneck first sergeant that ever did first sergeant with a redneck, go on, fix yourself, private. That's going to be our time for today. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to the Sons of Liberty live stream. Malcolm Ritchie, retired Army Lieutenant Colonel, and Ken Harbaugh, a retired Navy. I'm not sure of his rank, but I know he flew planes, so he's like an officer.
Lieutenant,
Guys, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Also, Admin Asia, Admin Jen, Admin Doug, Admin Matt, and Admin James. Always a pleasure to have you guys.
Liberty1765.com. You never plug me.
Liberty1765.com. Yes, that is our website that we have up and running. I plugged that today in today's video.
Thank you.
All right. 2 claps and a
y'all.
rig.
Woo!
All right. Have a good night, y'all.